Senator Kennedy.
Dr. Parikh, am I saying that right?
You are.
Thank you. Do you know anybody who's against biomedical research?
I do not know anybody that's against biomedical research, but I know some.
That's like being against children, isn't it?
It is.
It's like being against world peace, isn't it?
It is.
It's like being against golden retrievers, isn't it?
There's some people that argue there.
Okay. Well, let's get that out of the way. I want to ask you about NIH. I love NIH. I think they do extraordinary work.
Yes, sir.
But isn't it a fact if NIH assigns way too much money for overhead, that money comes out of the basic research? Isn't that the case?
Hey Patriots, welcome back to Right View Nation, your trusted source for the truth they don't want you to hear. I'm your host, and today we've got something that'll make your blood boil if you care about how the government is spending your hard-earned tax dollars. So Senator John Kennedy from Louisiana, one of the few brave voices in Washington actually standing up for the American taxpayer, absolutely took it to these university elites in a recent hearing. Folks, you gotta see this. Kennedy was grilling this Dr. Parikh about how these so-called prestigious universities are skimming massive overhead costs off medical research grants. Now, let me break this down for my Right View Nation family.
Senator, both those things are providing funds for research. And I agree with you that we need to make the administrative burden and the costs associated with it as low as possible, because we do want as much to go
Well,
to
why
research.
can't NIH live with 15% overhead?
Yeah. Senator, we have had a partnership that's been going on for 75 years in this country.
Yes,
that's
sir,
worked
but why
remarkably well.
can't NIH live with 15% overhead?
At this point, what that would do is actually turn institutions like the ones we've heard about here, it would actually make it to where they are laying off researchers and the support folks who are
Well, the
supporting
Gates
that work.
Foundation, when they make grants, they limit overhead to 10%, don't they?
They do, sir, but that is apples to oranges because they count different things
And
in
the
the
Roberts
overhead.
Woods Johnson Foundation limits overhead to 12%, don't they?
They do. Again, apples to oranges because they count different things.
Isn't it a fact that the universities that receive the most money from NIH also have the biggest endowments?
I haven't checked that, but it probably is true, Senator. And I agree with you. There are challenges that we need to work on.
Well, let's take Harvard. 69 cents out of every dollar from NIH given to Harvard goes to overhead.
No, sir, it's 69 cents out of every $1.69. It's on top of, it's not within.
Okay. Which is 1.6. Let me ask you about one of the worst abuses I've ever seen. It was at Stanford.
Yes, sir.
Stanford was spending 74% of grants from NIH on overhead. Remember that?
I do, although I was in high school at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't. and they audited Stanford.
Yes, sir.
You remember what they found?
They bought a sailboat.
They found that Stanford was spending some of that money to pay the salaries of the employees at a Stanford-owned shopping center, didn't they?
I don't remember that part. No,
I
sir,
do.
but yeah, okay.
They found that Stanford was spending some of that money that was supposed to go to research, ladies and gentlemen, to renovate the president's home,
Yes, sir.
didn't they?
I believe so, Senator. Again.
And to
when I was in
renovate
high
the vice provost's home, too, didn't they?
I believe you when you say that. Yes.
And they also charged, Stanford took NIH research money to help children and applied it to depreciation on a Stanford yacht, didn't they?
Yes, sir. Again, when I was in high school, sir.
Now, does NIH audit every year the way these grants are being spent?
They don't audit every year. There's a process for
So they
determining.
just trust the universities?
No, there's a negotiation that takes place between
Yes,
the
sir,
NIH
but if it's a
and the university.
5-year grant
Yes, sir.
and they agree on indirect costs, they don't audit it every year. What if the universities lie to them?
That is absolutely a possibility.
What does fungible mean?
Fungible means that you can move money from one place to another.
And money's fungible, isn't it?
Money is fungible.
I'm ready to have a productive discussion. I've got to go to another committee. Maybe you'll have it today. I haven't heard it.
Yes, sir.
What I've heard is the implication is that anybody who is against asking hard questions about the overhead and spending is against biomedical research.
I wouldn't say that, sir. I think you are a champion.
And I don't agree with that.
Yeah, I don't either.
But every penny that we spend on overhead that's not being audited, and you know as much as I do, Doc, that some of it is being abused, is money that is taken away from research. And that's just a fact. And if you care about this child here, and I know you do, we all do, then any money spent illegitimately on overhead to pay the salary of a professor in the humanities department at a university is coming out of her research. And it's not wrong to ask questions.
It is not wrong to ask
No,
questions.
it's not.
Not at all. And Senator, I think it's actually important to ask those questions and optimize the system.
And I don't understand why these universities cannot live on 15% overhead when Gates Foundation limits them to 10% and the Johnson Foundation limits them to 12%. I don't understand it. All of a sudden, if they don't get 35% overhead, civilization is going to melt.
It is important.
My
to
mama
have that
didn't
conversation.
raise a fool, and if she did, it was one of my brothers.
The National Institutes of Health, NIH, is funded by your tax dollars. They hand out billions in research grants every year. Now, research to cure diseases? Absolutely, we all support that. Even Senator Kennedy made that clear right out of the gate. Nobody's against helping sick kids or finding cures. But here's where it gets infuriating. These elite universities, the same ones indoctrinating our kids with their leftist agenda, are taking upwards of 70% of that money for what they call overhead. 70%. Not for actual research, but for administrative costs and whatever else they want to spend it on. Kennedy didn't mince words, and that's why we love him. He said straight up, "My mama didn't raise a fool." And boy, was he right to call this out. Let's talk specifics here. Kennedy brought up Stanford University. You know, that bastion of liberal education in California. Back in the day, Stanford was taking 74 cents of every dollar the NIH gave them and calling it overhead. When they finally got audited, and this is the part that should have every American taxpayer furious, they found that Stanford was using your money to buy a YACHT. That's right, a sailboat. They were using research dollars that were supposed to help sick children to pay for employees at a Stanford-owned shopping mall. They renovated the university president's mansion with that money. The vice provost's home, too. This is exactly what's wrong with the system, Patriots. The elites think they can just take your money and spend it however they want with zero accountability. And the worst part, the witness admitted they don't even audit these grants every year. They just trust these universities. Trust them with your money. Now here's where it really gets interesting. Senator Kennedy pointed out that the Gates Foundation, not exactly a conservative organization, limits overhead to just 10% on their grants. The Robert Wood Johnson Foundation caps it at 12%. But these universities think they need 35% or more from the government. The arrogance is unbelievable. These are the same institutions sitting on billions in endowment money. Harvard has an endowment of over $50 billion, but still needs to take 69 cents on the dollar for overhead from research grants? Give me a break. This, my friends, is the swamp in action. This is exactly what President Trump was talking about when he promised to drain it. The bureaucrats, the elites, the academic establishment, they're all feeding at the taxpayer trough while producing less and less actual value. Think about what Kennedy said. Every dollar wasted on this overhead scam is a dollar not going to actual research. That means treatments not discovered, cures not found, lives not saved. But the elites don't care as long as they get their cut. And you know what happens when anyone dares to question this system? They get accused of being against science or against medical research. It's the same playbook the left always uses. If you dare question how they spend your money, they'll call you names and try to shame you into silence. Let me be crystal clear. We all support medical research. We all want cures for diseases. Heck, most conservatives I know are the first to donate to St. Jude's or other medical charities. The difference is we expect our money to actually go to the research, not to fund some academic bureaucrat's lifestyle or pet projects. So what's the solution here? It's simple. First, we need full transparency. Every research dollar should be tracked and accounted for. Second, we need regular audits, not just when something seems fishy. Third, we need to cap these overhead rates. If the Gates Foundation can get by with 10%, then these universities with billions in endowments should be able to as well. And most importantly, we need more senators like John Kennedy who aren't afraid to ask the tough questions and call out this waste and abuse. Look, Patriots, this isn't just about money. It's about a system of elites who think the rules don't apply to them. It's about institutions that claim to be serving the public good while they're really serving themselves. And it's about a government that's forgotten that every dollar they spend came from a hardworking American taxpayer. When I see hearings like this, it reminds me why we need to put America first in everything we do. That means putting American taxpayers first. That means putting patients and researchers first, not university bureaucrats and administrators. Senator Kennedy said his mama didn't raise a fool, and neither did mine. We can see through this charade. We know when we're being taken for a ride. And we're not going to stand for it anymore. If you're as fired up about this as I am, smash that subscribe button and ring that bell so you never miss a video from Right View Nation. We're here bringing you the truth they don't want you to hear, day in and day out. Also, drop a comment below telling me what you think about this university overhead scam. I read every comment, and I love hearing from my Patriot family. And don't forget to check out our brand new Drain the Swamp merchandise line. Every purchase helps support this channel and our mission to expose the truth and fight for real American values. Until next time, Patriots. This is Right View Nation, reminding you to always question the narrative, fight for truth, and never apologize for putting America first. God bless America, and God bless each and every one of you.